Hi and welcome to Find Your Voice TV, where we help you fulfill your potential. My name's Emmanuella Grace. I'm a vocal coach based here in Melbourne, Australia. I have worked all over the world helping thousands of people find their voice. Tonight I am so excited to welcome an Australian-born comedian who's now based in LA, and I've got to tell you, I've worked with this guy and here to welcome you, Simon Taylor!
Was the goal just to make me blush from the get-go? Come on now, all right.
It is warm in here.
Go on, you can say more nice things. I'll
Simon,
hang around.
I'm just so excited to have you. You have such a big presence and you have such an incredible ability to just cut through and really see the truth in things, but do it in the nicest way possible.
That's a great way of saying I'm a drama nerd. That's all I feel like I am. That's all I was growing up. I was just the drama kid, the geeky drama kid, and then it's become my life. So that's a nice way to put it. I'll take it that way.
Well, one of the reasons I wanted to start the Q&A here at Find Your Voice Studios was because so often we encounter people that have grown up through the drama schools with these kind of ideals of what it's like to grow up and become a performing artist. And I think it's really important to get people in here that can tell you what it's actually like.
I think the interesting thing when you're doing it, when you start, it's just because you love the craft and you love the actual performance side of it. And then when you decide to make it your profession, you get swept up in all these practicalities and the stresses and the strains and how much work you have to do to maintain it as a living. And sometimes you got to go, wait, I do this because I actually love this.
Yeah.
And all the other tough stuff, whether it's, physical health, like mental stability, is stuff you have to learn strategies for along the way.
So you've worked as a writer. One of my favorite things that you've done actually is The Tonight Show with Jay Leno on NBC in the USA. What was it like as a writer having to actually give voice to someone else's thoughts?
It took I'd say about 2 months to get what he is about. And that was just listening to him every day and absorbing it. And he also just knew himself so well, and he was so clear. Like every night watching him, he would have the same point of view and he'd have the same voice. So after a while, I'm like, oh, well, he knows exactly what it is. Yeah. So it became clear to me because it wasn't changing night to night. He wasn't constructing anything that didn't suit him or his sensibilities. So once I knew him, the next 2 years writing for him was so intuitive because I could hear a bit of news or read a headline and go, I know what Jay thinks about this. I know what's up with this. So that was, once someone has harnessed their voice so clearly, you can latch onto it.
Yeah, okay. So tell me a little bit more about how you came to be in that job in the first place.
It was ridiculous. I went to LA to visit a friend. I had one stand-up comedy gig. I did like 8 minutes of jokes, and a producer from The Tonight Show came up to me afterwards and said, hey, I liked your stuff. You should come hang out at The Tonight Show. And I'm like, ooh, free ticket.
Yeah.
But then I realized they're all free. But anyway, I got to go. And after the show, I loved it. It was amazing. It's showbiz. It's like The Tonight Show was like the longest running late night talk show. It's so prestigious. Johnny Carson was like the king of late night TV. And so just to see that legacy and all in action and the cameras and the lights, I'm like, this is real. This is real Hollywood.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And so I was blown away by it. And so because it was such a joy to be there, the producer pulled me backstage after the show and said, oh, you can get a photo with Jay, or you can meet Jay. And the first thing I said to him was, hey, Jay Leno, I'm going to write for you one day. As like a smart aleck Australian quip.
Yeah.
Like, absolutely, it was just the first thing I thought of. And he's like, oh, okay, yeah, well, Chris says you're funny, send your jokes in. I'm like, what? It's like, yeah, send your jokes in. And at that stage, I'd been on Twitter maybe 2 years. Yeah. And on Twitter every day I would read the news and write a joke, like a 140 characters or less joke. Yeah. So when he said send some jokes in, I had already written thousands of jokes about the news on Twitter. So I had the skill to read the news that day. I wrote 2 pages of jokes, sent them in, and the next day I had a contract. So
Wow.
it's crazy.
So one of the things I wanted to bring up was that it takes 10 years to make an overnight sensation. What were the key turning points in your career? I'm guessing reaching across and saying in a funny voice to a man you're going to write jokes for him
Yes.
would definitely be one of those key
Yeah.
turning points.
Yeah, that was, I think, some people say maybe luck gets you through the door and hard work determines how long you stay in the room.
Yeah.
Because I was lucky that he said send jokes in. But what if I hadn't written all those jokes for my own benefit on Twitter? I had practiced writing for television just because I enjoyed gag writing and topical joke writing. I didn't know that I would ever get in that position. I didn't know that I'd ever write for TVs or talk shows. I just loved talk shows. I loved stand-up comedy, and I just enjoyed the craft. So all that hard work over years of just writing meant that when I had that lucky break, I was able to maintain the job for 2 years.
Yeah, and it's something that I think we see a lot. You know, these television shows for singing and things like that, it's overlooked that the people that really make it, that have lasting careers, are the ones that have put the work in.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is a big illusion. I know a lot of people who do those nondescript, not mentioning any names, talent singing shows. And so many of them think, okay, this is it. This is the big break. And they get all this attention for this short period of time. And I've got to hang out backstage at those shows and meet people and things like that. But what people are actually, what the audience is getting on board with is the brand of the show.
Yeah.
So if hypothetically The Voice is on and these singers are getting all this attention, a couple of weeks later when X Factor's on now, that audience shifts to that new format and actually follows the show. And those artists are like, wait a sec, what? I thought I was popular, I thought I was on TV. And it's because they're not actually controlling their identity a lot of the time on that. They're not controlling the edits. They're not controlling the song selection some of the time. And sometimes they don't even have their own voice, so they're just kind of karaokeing their way through. Sorry, I just came up with a verb, karaokeing.
I think karaokeing's a word.
Yeah, sure.
Karaokeing, can we fact check
Yes.
that?
No, let's not fact check it. Let's add it to the dictionary.
I feel like we are formally adding to the Find Your Voice repertoire of words that are relevant in the music industry. Karaokeing. Take note, you heard it here with Simon Taylor.
I just make up words when I need them, but yeah,
I think it's a great word.
But that's the thing. They're just imitating their artists through the show. So yeah, they might have some big viral hit on YouTube, but from the people I've met and the people I've observed who have done those shows, and I do know quite a few of them, especially in the recent years and seasons of them, is that the ones that are already building their repertoire, building their brand, and actually understanding their own voice and creating music already, can use that show as kind of leverage. However, what happens a lot of the time is the audience is watching because of the brand of the show, and they're listening to the music because it's music they already love, have an emotional connection to, and because they already connect to the artist who sung it beforehand. So it's almost like a passageway back into the voice of the original artist. So what can happen is that people go on these shows for almost like a flash in the pan, just to feel like, oh, I'm getting some attention. But the attention isn't for your brand and it isn't for your voice. And the people who have done it well have, one, shown their voice on those shows, but two, just used it to leverage that attention back into the work that they've already been doing. So if that work's not there, then it's irrelevant. And it's the same with all the other talent shows, like Whoever's Got Talent. I have lots of friends who do those shows, and they say afterwards the attention dies down because I didn't channel that attention into my own work, or I didn't have anything else to back it up. So it can be effective But if you look at the people who are still maintaining success from it, look at what they did beforehand, I think.
Yeah. And I think also so often people very rarely are told what's going to be in those contracts.
Oh, yeah. You have no control over the edits. Sometimes you don't have control over the songs. It's very limiting and restricting. So...
also to do with the work you can take on afterwards.
Yeah. I know people who said they had an album ready to release and they couldn't because they had a holding contract.
Yeah.
And that can be crazy. So you've got to go in really knowing, just be smart about it and knowing what you can get out of it. Or maybe it's just not the right, maybe it's not the right thing because it's almost an illusion a lot of the time.
So I'd like to hear then a couple of the big challenges you've faced. You've had this incredible luck that you've been able to leverage because you've done the hard work. But what are some of the biggest challenges that you've faced?
To be honest, they're emotional. And I feel like this is now a psychologist.
Hi, Simon, and welcome to the couch.
Oh, man. I just want a dog and a girlfriend and an apartment. In that order.
I've got 2 cats that keep gate crashing this shoot.
Yeah, they probably understand my needs. Hey, what's up? Hey, I want the attention. So I think I think in such a demanding career because you don't have as much structure and in kind of a work day. So one of the challenges generally is just having a social life and a love life as well, because my friends all work during the day. Yeah. And during the day I'm doing admin, or I'm rehearsing, or I'm practicing, or I'm training, and then at night I go out and I perform. So socially and emotionally you are being affected. So that is such a big part of my life. And maybe it's not for everyone. Maybe people have, partners already, or maybe people can balance it. But for me, because I care so much about developing my craft and my career, it's just the mindset that I give it so much time. And that's the biggest challenge is sacrificing what other people appear to have. Some normality.
So if I were to even ask you what's a day in the life for Simon Taylor like, you could not give me an answer for that, really.
No, today is completely different to what tomorrow will be. It's dependent on where the work is and what type of work I'm doing. This is taking part of my night up that I wouldn't have foreseen. I wouldn't, if someone said last year, will you do a late night shoot I'd be like, no, I don't think so. It's not on the books, but it is now. And just for those of you who are watching, Simon and I have worked all day in our respective fields. I as a vocal coach, and he as a comedian who's had to write things. And you know what? Why don't you tell us a little bit about all the things you had to write today? This morning I woke up in my mahogany, no, that's not true. On my top floor apartment, and I said...
Water bed with my, 22-year-old...
I said... Ryan, as in Gosling, what are we going to do today, bro? And he says, I don't know, let's get all these ladies out of here. And no, so here's what genuinely happened. I'm staying in my friend's spare bedroom because I'm only in town for like a day. So I'm only in here, just for a little while because I'm mid-tour. I was just in Brisbane. I'm here in Melbourne for one day, and then I go to Adelaide to tour. So I woke up in a stranger's bed, and
for free.
That's a frequent one. And so I'm always in a place that I've probably never been before, and then I check all my social media because there's people from America. So I actually maintain that. That's quite a business thing. I don't actually see social media as a personal thing anymore. It's not really me posting what I like. It's what I think my audience will like and will sell tickets. So social media is always like humming away. And then I'm replying to my publicist about articles I have to write to promote shows. Then I was speaking to my agent over like 5 emails, and then he just called because we're just back and forth. He's like, I'll just call you. So then we had a chat about, you know, the show and things like that. And none of this has been creative up until this point. So I haven't even been creative up until like, you know, it gets to like 3 o'clock and I've done all the admin stuff. Yeah. So not even the fun stuff has come. It's actually all the other things that are required to be able to sit down now. And then I was writing a song for the new show, and then I was trying to learn the song by tonight so I could actually do it at a gig. So then I was recording it and listening to it back, and then driving to the gig and singing along with the song and warming up my voice. Then I get to the gig, and then it's, you know, pacing up and down, writing notes, thinking what I have to do, sussing out the audience, listening to what they're responding to with the other comedians. So I'm switched on there as well, do my set, and then, you know, come here and film this. So that is, I didn't know the day would take that shape, because you just have to keep working until you get the admin stuff done.
And a week ago you had nothing. A week ago you were
I was
waiting
in Brisbane melting. Yeah. That was all that was happening. And
amazing.
I was just like sitting around going, what's a funny thing? Are there any funny things?
There is so much going on there. You know, and it's so important to find your voice, but what do you do in terms of looking after your mental and physical health once you've found it and you have this kind of work schedule? What do you do to look after yourself?
Well, I feel like everyone knows the right things to do. It's just we don't fit them in. So we've all been told to meditate. We've all been told to do yoga at some point. We've all been told to, you know, to look after your, you know, physical self, going to the gym or finding a sport or whatever it is. So that stuff is integral. Like I do it after gigs a lot of the time. I'll finish a gig at 11:30 or even 12, and then go to the gym just to wind down, do something monotonous and physical, because I feel like in that respects it's half physical, half meditation. In just there's no creative thought here. There's no busyness to my brain. There's simplicity. So there's that. There's eating well. Everyone knows how to eat well. I think everyone, some veggies, if you're not vegetarian, it's some fish, it's meat occasionally. Like we all know that. We all know nothing in extreme proportions. We know stay away from sugar. We all have those things. It's just whether you decide to systematically put it in your life. In terms of voice, warming up before the show, warming down, and all the elements of your mental health, your emotional health, your physical health, and social life as well. That's important.
Yeah. So Simon, you know, you're known for your honesty, and
no, I'm not. Just kidding. Yeah,
no, you really are, and it's one of the things I love about you. And being authentic is vital in being effective in a performance. What are some examples where being authentic was part of your process, and some examples of that?
Well, at least in the stand-up world, which I think has affected how I perform in other styles as well, with the singing and other performance styles I do. You have to be authentic on the stage because people can smell it in stand-up. They won't laugh. They just won't laugh. It feels constructed. It feels fake, and there'll be a disjunction between you and the audience. And with stand-up, it's not like an instrument where you can play guitar in your bedroom, get the scales right, and then put it on stage. Stand-up is you create it with the audience. The audience is the instrument. So being honest and doing jokes that make sense for your voice are the only ones that get the real laughs. Yeah. Like you can make, you know, silly, obvious jokes, or you could even say, you know, jokes that you heard at the pub, and you might get a laugh, but you're not getting your voice that really takes off, and you can hear the difference. You can tell the difference because people are so excited after the show. Like oh man, I agree with that, and yeah, I like the way you think, those sort of things. So when you attain that in stand-up, it gives you this insight into, well, why don't I find that in my other performance, in my song, and in the poetry I write, or when I'm acting. So you get to bring that across. So that's kind of where honesty is integral, and you can carry that through.
Okay, we've got time for 2 more questions. Here's one of my favorites. What, as an authentic, funny man, is your biggest snafu ever? And I'm going to say the word again. That is a snafu. Simon, what's your biggest snafu ever?
So I did a gig in Queensland, in the Gold Coast at Bond University. I meant to do 40 minutes. In the first 30 minutes, this is quite young in my comedy career, first 30 minutes, I'm so into myself. I'm like, I'm killing this gig. This is so good. They're laughing so hard. I'm amazed. I'm going to make out with everyone here. This is the best. Like, I just was so full of myself. And then I started doing new material and also blue material, basically. So rude stuff that I hadn't really done before either, which doesn't suit me, which I know now doesn't suit me. And the gig just imploded. Like, people were turning their chairs around, people were leaving, people were yelling, like,
because you weren't being true to your style.
Well, I wasn't being funny, so that's like the key thing. But I remember afterwards going online and watching other comedians do that blue stuff, and I'm like, well, that's them, and it's not me. And so that was a really brutal, because that last 10 minutes, there were no laughs. There were heckles and people leaving, and it was so crazy. So letting my ego dictate, like, my skill level was the biggest snafu. And I remember just for 2 days in the Gold Coast staying on a friend's couch, and they weren't there. I was in an empty house, just in like the fetal position, going, I'm a terrible comedian. And that, like, being stuck in that allowed me to emerge and be reborn like a phoenix.
Great. Well, following up from your snafus, tell me, love, what are your 3 wins for the last 12 months?
Last year I learned some jazz scales, so singing jazz scales, and I think what that did was reminded me how much I don't know.
Okay.
Because I'd always sung like musicals and things like that, and had never really heard those, that style, or even listened in that way. Another win was probably, I guess, getting to look after my family a little bit more. I think sometimes you get very career focused and self-focused, and you kind of have to be to build your skill and build your career and build your business. And over Christmas was kind of the first time I could actually just buy the presents I wanted for my family and help them out with, being around and doing things for them. And it just made me realize how much I'm not around because I'm off doing what I think they want for me, when what they really want for me is just to be part of the family and to, contribute and things like that. So that was a win, coming back, and after having some success last year, financially and career-wise and mentally, and going, now I get to be others focused again. So that was a good win. Mm-hmm.
And your 3rd win?
My 3rd win was all about me getting a special. Woo! It was getting to do an ABC stand-up special at the Enmore in Sydney, because the way it came about was ABC saw my live show, and they said, we'd like you to film an hour. And I told my agent, I'm like, great, we'll do it in Melbourne, because that's where most people know me. And they said, well, our production house is in Sydney. I'm like, fine, we'll do it in Sydney, but we'll do it at the Comedy Store. 200 seats. I could probably get 200 seats if I, gave free tickets. They go, nope, we're doing it at the Enmore. I'm like, all right, Enmore, 1,000-seat theatre. Well, that's okay. We'll just maybe get 300 people and put the cameras by. They go, no, we're going to sell it out. I'm like, all right, let's do this. So we went for, went for gold, and it happened. And I think at first it's like a nice credit. It's a win because it's a credit. Yeah. But the real win was getting to do it and going, well, well, this is where I want to be.
Yeah.
And on stage in a theatre, and all these people who knew me and had come for me, and it was just a reminder of, all those tough gigs, all those gigs to 3 people off a laneway in Melbourne, all those gigs, in the middle of nowhere, for no money. Like, it felt like a real win in being a stand-up comedian. So
amazing. Simon, thank you so much. If people want to know more about you, if they want to be able to follow you up, stalking, let's not put your phone number out there. But
0421.
Could you tell us your website and where people can best follow you if they'd like to know more about what you're doing? And
Sure, mrsimontaylor.com. So mrsimontaylor.com is my website. I put all the updates. But whatever platform you're on, if you're on Instagram, Mr. Simon Taylor, Twitter, Mr. Simon Taylor on Facebook, Mr. Simon Taylor on Snapchat, swipe right for Tinder, I'm on LinkedIn, whatever you like, I'm on all of them. I'm Generation Y, so I'm all over the shop. You'll find me.
It's been so wonderful.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Right, that has been Find Your Voice TV, where we help you fulfill your potential. Thank you very much.